Hello and welcome back to the Talking Sports Traders podcast. My name's Sean. I am joined by my beautiful friend in Peter. How are you, Pete?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Looking forward to this podcast. It's been a lot of research put into this one.
Yeah, let's not mess it up now.
No. I feel like I've done an essay at university. I've written that many notes.
Yeah, I haven't. I mean, I write a lot at work, and I feel like I've doubled the amount of writing that I normally do with the notes that I've put in here.
I'm excited to hear them.
It's good to be back. As we mentioned at the end of our first, I mean, it was only a small intro podcast technically, but in our first episode, we did mention that today's episode is going to be about the F1 season. The F1 season currently will start in, is it a couple of weeks now, or a week's time?
It's going to start on Sunday by the time we've got the podcast out. We're recording a week earlier, to say. So, yeah, it will start on Sunday for you guys. Yeah,
and we will be releasing more podcasts about different sports, obviously. We have decided on a day and a time, haven't we? And we are going to be consistent with this, aren't we?
Yep.
Hold your hands up. You know, as Lord as my witness.
I pledge allegiance to the podcast.
Great. So that is going to be on Thursdays.
Yep.
Every Thursday. See if I get this right. At 10 a.m.
Yep. Great.
Now, me and Pete are based in Malta.
Yep.
I think that's something that we should mention. We're based in Malta. So for those of you listening in Malta, that is 10 a.m. your time. Those of you listening who might be in the UK, for example, you guys are an hour behind us. So that'll be 9 a.m. your time.
Yeah.
Quick maths.
Yeah. I'm used to that with the Premier League game starting at 4 o'clock. I've been here almost 2 years. Can't get used to that. Saturday 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Just doesn't have the same ring as Saturday 3 p.m.
I used to hate it. I think the days before Flash Score and stuff like that, I used to use other sites, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, 3 o'clock kick off, sweet." I'd get ready, have a drink, whatever, have a shower, sit on the sofa, put it on, and I'm in the second half, and I'm like, "What is happening here?"
Disaster, absolute disaster.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about footy. We are on Formula One, all things cars, the fastest cars, and the fastest drivers in the world as well. I think we mentioned this last time. The last season's Formula One season was amazing. In terms of drama, in terms of how it ended, even how it started in the middle part of the season. I mean, you didn't know who was going to win it.
No, absolutely not. And one of the reasons why I like F1 is, for me anyway, I'm quite neutral. I didn't really mind who won out of Hamilton and Verstappen. I know a lot of people dislike one of them or dislike the other, so I do understand that for some people they get really heated, but for me, I just like the drama. I'm not fussed whoever wins out of those two. So yeah, I just sit down and enjoy the ride, so to speak.
Absolutely. It was fascinating. I think for those who maybe don't know the backstory of it, I think it would be really good for us to just sort of do a really quick recap and take our minds back as to essentially what happened. A lot of people who don't follow Formula One will know Lewis Hamilton. They'll know he drives a Mercedes. They'll know that he's a Sir now and he's a really fast driver and he wins loads of stuff. But realistically, last season it didn't quite go his way, did it?
No. There's quite a lot of things going on, especially with Massey who's now gone, and that was another thing that I enjoyed a lot about the F1 season last year is that when something went on and you watch it on Sky and this Red Bull are complaining about this and Mercedes are counter complaining about that, every single thing was new. Every race seemed to be an unprecedented problem, an unprecedented move, and this was illegal, that was illegal. So it's just great. Hopefully it carries on like that because you want races like that.
That's it, and I think the hardcore F1 fans, perhaps more the older generation, these people are probably complaining about it a lot because, like you say, every race there was one team claiming there was an illegal move, and it was a lot of controversy. Realistically, there was a lot of pressure on Michael Massey's shoulders. Just to confirm for those of you who don't know who he is, he was head of the FIA. Since being replaced now, well, I guess you could say it was due to the sort of controversial ending of last season. There was other rumors saying that he just wasn't really interested in the role anymore. A lot of actual ex F1 drivers have said that Massey is the right man for the job. He just made the wrong decision. But if you're that high up and you're getting paid that much money to make crucial decisions and you make a mistake, do you deserve to have that position for the following season?
Well, for sure. I mean, he was race director and now he's not. Now it's going to be alternating between two people, which maybe will work, maybe won't. It might cause even more miscommunication in terms of one interpreting a different move completely different to the other. And I think realistically, one of the problems with last season was that there was no rule for certain circumstances in this exact move at this exact moment. It's always going to be down to one person's interpretation. And really, it wasn't necessarily a problem with F1. That's every sport. If you have a sort of little bit of a loophole in a regulation where it's just on one guy interpreting one thing, there's always going to be someone who feels like they've been cheated. So I don't know. And I saw recently that there was an interview of Christian Horner on BBC, and he was saying that he thinks that Massey's gone because of Mercedes bullying him. And I just think that's the hypocrisy there. I mean, like I say, I don't really care who wins out of Mercedes or Red Bull, but for him to come out and say that Mercedes has been bullying Massey, well, nearly every race he was putting extreme public pressure on Massey, on the radio, and we can all hear what he was saying. So for one team to try and take the high ground, it really does, that winds me up. They're both as bad as each other in terms of putting pressure. But I've got nothing against that. They both want to win. They're both doing exactly what they can do to win and pushing it to the extremes. That's what we want to see.
Horner is so hypocritical sometimes. It's sort of a bit of a love-hate relationship. I mean, he really does have the perfect life in a way because, I mean, he's head of Red Bull, and he's married to a celebrity as well in that sense. And he's got a beautiful house in the countryside and probably has another one in Monaco somewhere, and he's just living the life. Yet he still feels like he needs to be this sort of controversial figure when realistically it's just not the case. And it's almost as though he can't help himself from being out that limelight. He has to be. He's always the first person to raise his hand to do an interview. That's something that I've learned actually a lot since I've been following the F1.
Yeah, I just think there's been plenty of opportunities for either team, Mercedes or Red Bull, to take the moral high ground and to come across as the team that is the nice team, but neither of them have took it.
Yeah, exactly. So going back to recap, so Michael Massey has been replaced by the FIA. They did release an article based on, well, we think it's based on what happened in Abu Dhabi last year. He's going to be replaced by two guys that you mentioned. Names, hoping I pronounce these correctly, Niels Vitic and Eduardo Freitas.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with that. They're going to alternate, essentially, as the F1 race directors for the 2022 season. Massey has actually been offered a role in the FIA, so he still will have a position there, but he just won't be making those crucial decisions. Some would say it's better having two guys, because if one of them is going to be the race director, let's say, for the opening race of Bahrain, then if there's a tough decision, he can then sort of talk to the right-hand man and they can sort of discuss these decisions. Some of the people are also saying it's another scenario where it's sort of too many chefs spoil the broth a little bit. Yeah,
again, like I was saying before, in my opinion, the problem isn't with the race directors. It wasn't with Massey, so to speak. It's the fact that specifically in the last race, for example, there was nowhere in writing to say the safety car is here. Some of these cars are lapped. You can let a few past, whatever. But nowhere did it say that at the end of that lap, the World Championship is going to be decided. And that's what I think the problem was. Say, for example, if there was an incident at turn 15, race 7 of last season, where Vettel took over Alonso for P11, yeah. If Massey interpreted it, people would have just gone along with it because realistically it meant nothing. But because of the exact situation, that time and place, there was always going to be bitterness. Whether even if he made the right call, someone from the losing side, so to speak, would have been trying to put pressure on him anyway. So, like I say, it's more down to the fact that there's interpretation, and really what should probably happen is it should be that guy's interpretation, if we're sticking with the rules are not going to change, and we're going to listen to the race director's interpretation, then really there should be none of this bitching on the radio, and when he's made his decision, that should be it. We shouldn't have Wolf saying one thing, and we shouldn't have Horner saying one thing. They're both crying. If the race director has said that's his interpretation, that should be it. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah, there's a famous recording of Massey from last season when Wolf went crazy, obviously, with what happened, and I think it was just as Max was sort of crossing the line, and he shouted out the radio, and I think Massey's response was just, "This is a car race.
Yeah.
This is a car race, and this is how I want it to be."
Yeah.
And you have to sort of like you sort of respect where he's coming from. Like he wants it to be exciting for those who are watching all around the world. Having said that, Hamilton was so far ahead.
Yeah.
Like, it's just you can't really justify.
Yeah, there was always going to be bitterness whichever way it finished. If Hamilton would have won, Christian Horner would 100% be crying in the media about the Silverstone incident. Realistically, there was no way that it was going to finish on nice terms with everyone hugging each other and saying well done. Although, to be fair to Hamilton, he did publicly at least, congratulate, and I think he took the loss much better than Mercedes as a whole. So that needs to be
100%.
said.
Yeah, 100%. I think Lewis was clever about it because we didn't really hear from him for a while, and there was so many rumors going around, and eventually he came out and he was just like, "Oh, you know what? Like, congratulations, they won it, fair and square type of thing." And I think he's probably had some sort of like managers and media specialists from behind the scenes who have probably said to him, "Listen, if you turn around now and say it wasn't fair, I was cheated, whatever, you're gonna lose a bit of respect." I think.
Yeah, and as Verstappen said, it's probably easier for him to take when he's already got 7 titles under the on the shelf.
That's very true.
Yeah,
that is very true. Cool. So, as we know, new season coming up. We have Bahrain, which is our first track of the year.
Yeah, there is just one thing that I would just add before we move on. Is George Russell's tweet where he said this is unacceptable, and I think potentially this is going to be used as a meme in this season. Whenever he does anything that's even slightly off board, there's just going to be people going, "This is unacceptable," tweeting it in capitals. Like with Marcus Rashford's tweet to Elanga, where he's like, "Elanga, get that head of yours up immediately." And instantly you knew every time something goes wrong at United, everyone's going to be tweeting that. So every time something goes wrong at Mercedes, I can picture it already on Twitter. Mercedes crash out, something unfair happens to Mercedes, everyone's just going to be retweeting that George Russell tweet. I've got a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, he must have sent that tweet out and then, like, a few days later, realised what he'd done.
Well, obviously, everyone knew he was already going to be joining Mercedes, so obviously he was sort of, in a politics phrase, he was playing party line, wasn't he?
100%.
He's just saying that to come across well for his new bosses. But anyway,
100%.
That's the last thing I wanted to say on last season.
Yeah, love it, brilliant. Coming into the new season, there's been a few changes, stuff like that. I think one of the key things is we have a new track.
Yeah. So that's in Miami. It looks pretty cool. I don't know if you've had a look at it yet.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's quite street racy.
Yeah, it's going around the Miami Dolphins Stadium as well.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, I saw the Miami Dolphins in London last year when they were playing the Jaguars at Wembley Stadium. So just drop that in,
yeah. Not boasting or anything. So yeah, we do. There's a new Miami track, the Hard Rock Complex, Miami Gardens. It is interesting because from what I'm seeing and reading about it, as I mentioned, it is very much a street track style race. I'm hearing that there's a potential for 3 DRS zones. And I'm also seeing like estimated top speeds. Obviously, it's an estimation, but estimated top speeds are like 320 kilometers an hour. And if you look at like the averages for like the other tracks, that is high.
Yeah. Well, it seems to be the way that they're going with the with the new tracks that they had. Obviously, they added Saudi Arabia last year, and that also was one of the fastest tracks. But I don't really like Saudi Arabia, so I'll leave it at that. But yeah,
I think with the street race style, I mean, obviously the closest thing we have is sort of like the Monaco, Azerbaijan, those type of tracks. I think it's going to be quite similar to Azerbaijan in that sense. It does look a little bit wider. Well, I guess anything's wider than some of the corners in Azerbaijan. But I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be interesting. Who do you think's going to win it?
What, in Miami or the whole thing?
Yeah, no, in Miami. Come on, first place your guess now.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't even. Yeah, but let's go for Verstappen. I'm going for Verstappen wins the title. So yeah, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, in my opinion, now if I'm looking at sort of like the history of Monaco and the history of Azerbaijan, those similar style races, obviously Verstappen won Monaco last season, then Lewis, but let's not forget in 2018 Ricciardo won it.
Yeah, but we have no idea how it's going to race. So.
We have no idea, but I think I am a strong believer in that some F1 drivers suit certain tracks.
Yeah.
And I really do think that keeping an eye on Max and Lewis, obviously for most tracks will be up there, but the likes of Norris as well and Ricciardo, I think they've got great shouts for tracks like that. But even capacity-wise, there's a lot of people can actually go and view that.
It seems cool that, because they've got one of the sides of the stadium, at least on an artist's impression that I saw, is sort of going to be open, and there's going to be like viewing balconies from inside the stadium. So I think that's gonna look pretty cool, I reckon.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But anyway, going back to the schedule as a whole. So obviously we are starting in Bahrain on Sunday, and this year we're welcoming back Australia, who have missed. They were missed last year, at least, with because of all the COVID restrictions, and they were supposed to be the first race as usual. They've traditionally held the first race of the season since 1996, but they've been given a few extra weeks to prepare for their COVID situation because things like vaccinations on the visas and stuff like that. But I can't really think why F1 have done that. I've not heard any stories about any sportsmen or sportswomen having any problems with COVID vaccines in Australia. I don't know about you. Nothing comes to mind anyway.
Yeah, I can't think of it. Yeah, no.
So anyway, they're going to be week 3. And another change because Saudi Arabia was towards the end of the season last year. They've been moved to round 2 now. So round 1, 2, 3 is going to be Bahrain, Saudi, and then Australia. And we're going to be finishing again in Abu Dhabi with an unprecedented round 23. That's going to be because the news from the F1, the FIA, that there's going to be 23 races this year, an extra race. What are your thoughts on an extra race?
I sort of understand where they're coming from. I think there are certain countries you have to have a race.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it was really important that they managed to get Australia back. I think it's a good idea that they give them time in order to sort out their sort of COVID situation. It feels strange not having Australia.
Yeah, it did for sure. Yeah.
it was weird, and it was like almost as though like it was just going to keep getting postponed, and eventually we'd be there. But it obviously never happened.
I always remember with Australia that when I used to play the PlayStation games, and it was always the first one of the season, I used to always crash after about three corners because I'm just terrible at racing games on the PlayStation. But
yeah, that was me on every
track. That's why we used to go on with my brother and put car damage off, and then just go around Monaco and just bash into corners and just go around.
So you're basically playing like a rally car game.
But you could never spin out because you just bash into the wall and carry on. So that was good. But with Abu Dhabi as well, we should mention that the season this year is going to end earlier than usual. So it's going to finish on November the 20th. Yep. And this is to avoid a clash with the FIFA World Cup that's going to be in Qatar, in the same region of the world. So the F1 season is going to finish on the 20th, and the World Cup is going to start on the 21st. So yeah, you can only imagine on the pit walk the celebrities that are going to be trying to get their faces on TV. Oh yeah, we'll go to the F1 finale, and we'll go to the World Cup opening ceremony. So yeah, Beckham, he's got to be odds on for sure.
I was going to say, let's go. Who are we saying? Who's being there? Beckham 100%. That's easy.
I think Stormzy's a big F1 fan. Not sure he'll go out that part. Tennis player. I mean, Reda Khan, she likes her tennis as well, and she's based herself a lot in Abu Dhabi recently. Yeah. So,
speaking of tennis, I've got a great shout.
Judy Murray. Is she an F1 fan?
She loves the F1. She loves the F1.
I'm already excited for Martin Brundle just like getting rejected by as many celebs as he can spot. He'd be like, oh, there's Beyonce. Can we get an interview with Beyonce? And he'll like run up to her with his little mic, and she'd be like, who are you?
Yeah, it's the cameraman I feel sorry for. Can you imagine that guy? Knackered, just running after him all the time.
He's like a drunk guy in a club, isn't he? He just goes off on his own little adventure on the pit walks. But I love it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So all in all, we're going to be treated then with a few breaks in between. It's going to be 9 months of F1 this year. Obviously, we are going to have 23, but we've only got 22 at the moment because of the news that Russia they've had their race taken off them because Vladimir Putin's got a small penis.
That's it. That's the exact reason.
That is the exact reason.
As well, that's what they said in the meeting. I think they said my inside betted info.
The rumor was 1 inch, but I don't know how true that is. But we do then also have a couple of tracks that weren't in last year that are going to be in again. So Australia, we've already mentioned them. Japan is going to be back on. Singapore, love Singapore. That's going to be back. Awesome. And then Canada is also back. Everyone loves the Canadian race. And then we've got a few drop into the subs bench. So Qatar, they're not going to have one. Portugal and Turkey, they had one last year, but they're not going to have one. But I was reading online that obviously they're going to pick a new one for Russia because they have committed to 23 races, so there are going to be 23. And it looks likely that it's going to be either Portugal or Turkey, with the most likely being Turkey because logistically is quite close to where the Russian Grand Prix was going to go in terms of the F1 world anyway. So I think the teams are pushing for the Russian race to be replaced by the Turkey.
I like Turkey. Portugal I'm not a huge fan of, I'll be honest. It's a bit slow.
I thought you were just on about the countries, to be fair. I think I like Portugal better than Turkey, but you can get a lot of value for money on Turkish hotels, like all these all-inclusive, 5-star hotels. They just love it.
Cheap designer handbags.
You can go and get your teeth done. Maybe have a bum lift as well.
And your hair. And your hair. Excellent. Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think you can tell a lot of work and a lot of plan's gone into it in ensuring that they're keeping everyone happy. And when I say everyone, I mean fans as well as the teams themselves.
Yeah. Well, speaking of keeping the teams happy, they've said that there's only going to be 3 sprint races instead of 6 this year.
Yes,
so they're going to be in Italy, Austria, and Brazil.
Yep.
And then, obviously, with the updated calendar, now there's going to be 3 night races and 7 street circuits. I love a night race. Singapore is definitely my my favorite race of the year. I don't know about yours.
It's not my favorite race of the year, but I do love it. It is up there. I really, really enjoy it. I think under the lights, atmosphere, they really go all out for it as well over there. They love it. And I think in terms of like the sort of the calendar of the country, I think that's a real high point for them.
Yeah, it's visually, it's very impressive, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's all I've got really on the calendar and the schedule.
Excellent. Shall we move on then and discuss what we've got next? We're going to changes for the year. Are we talking like in terms of rules and stuff?
Like I say, I don't know that much about the rules anyway. That's why I like listening to the interpretations of the race director.
Well, it's a good job you've got me because I've done a little bit of research here, and I can tell you about a couple of things that have changed. First of all, these are some quite big changes, and it might not sound like it, but they will make a huge difference. The wheels and the tyres, they're changing. They've adopted an 18-inch wheel rims now, and they're clad in new low-profile Pirelli tyres, as we all know. Might not mean much. In theory, it'll help make airflow around the cars easier to manage, allow the drivers to have more grip, following other cars as well. It will make a big difference, I think, and I think it's something that they've definitely been thinking about doing for a while now, which they've finally decided to do, which is great.
Well, it is important. Cars have wheels, definitely.
100%. Second, obviously, we discussed the schedule changes. We actually have there was talk about like one of the conditions on the budget cap being introduced in Formula One. So there was like a glide path, which would make it more sort of feasible for bigger teams to reduce their budgets to a correct level as like required. So while like initial baseline figures, I think of last year was around 145 million, I think it was something ridiculous like that. It is dropping like quite significantly this season. Basically, what's happening is it's allowing those teams that don't have the bigger budgets to sort of catch up to the likes of the Mercedes.
Yeah, no, that sounds fair for sure.
100%. A bit like a financial fair play rule in football.
Financial fair play, nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. In terms of the format, we discussed it a little bit. Not a massive change. In terms of trying to like reduce the amount of time that the teams are away from home, the weekend format was tweaked a little bit for like non-sprint weekends to ensure practice is later on a Friday. So the 2 1-hour practice sessions, they'll remain, but they'll now take place on a Friday afternoon. And then the teams will just do like media stuff in the morning, probably.
No, it must be hard to be away from home that much. But I mean, it is something
100%.
I can't imagine that they're staying in some Premier Inn. So, you know,
it'd
be nice to be a globetrotter on 40 million a year.
That's the thing. If you've got a family, it's different. If you're single or, you have a girlfriend who follows you around or whatever it is, I think it's a little bit easier. I think the intention essentially was just to eliminate Thursday as like a full day of track for all the teams and drivers. So it basically cuts out the four-day race weekend and turns into a 3-day race weekend. And then I guess regarding changes, but that's pretty much most of the main things that we've covered there.
Excellent.
I was going to mention regarding team news and stuff like that. We can go on.
Sure. Well, I think if we start going from constructor title downwards, so if you want to start with Mercedes, because I think you've done Mercedes, and then I'll jump in with Red Bull and we'll alternate through doing that.
Okay. So, was I Mercedes? Was I Mercedes? Yeah? All right, that's fine. The good job I did is some on Mercedes. Obviously, the big news with Russell.
Yeah. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly. With Russell coming in, I think it's going to be a huge lift to the entire team. I think what you have to understand is that he's young and he's a very, very talented driver. But what you also have to remember is that as a teammate, having Lewis in, it's going to be such a big lift for him. Like, he's going to learn so much from a legend in the sport, the greatest F1 driver of all time.
For sure. Lewis is definitely going to help him, and he seems like that sort of guy off the track. You know, he seems like he's definitely going to be more than happy to help Russell, not just become a better driver, but become, you know, a better ambassador for Formula One as well. And I think as well, like you were saying about a teammate, I mean, Bottas had some absolutely stinking races last year, right when Mercedes needed him as well. I mean, he was nowhere in Abu Dhabi. Like, no help to Lewis at all. He had to do everything by himself. I think Russell definitely is going to be quite eager to impress in the second role. I know he'll come out in the press and say he's in it to win it, but I'm sure behind the scenes he's quite content with being the second driver.
No, 100%, and I think that's a good thing, because I don't think Bottas was particularly happy about it either, and he struggled to accept that. Obviously, he's changed teams now, we'll get onto that, but I think what's important to note is that when you've got somebody like Lewis, you are going to be the second driver, regardless of who you are. And there was a lot of times where, because Bottas had already signed the deal before the season had ended, so people knew he was leaving, there was always that talk about whether, is he actually bothered anymore? Like, does he actually want to do well? Or is he going, you know what, I'm going to prove to these guys that they're going to miss out on a world-class driver? And I think I do think towards the end he did show that a little bit. He showed a little bit of that fight, and I really respect him for that. But he did have some
stinking races. So.
No, yeah, 100%, absolutely. Regarding the car, they haven't actually changed too much compared to what they did last season. Now, design-wise, aesthetically, it's beautiful, as all the Merc cars are. It's gone for a little bit of a darker theme this time. They have adjusted some of the sponsorships, have moved those around a little bit. But in terms of mechanically, they have added, and I'll get the word here just to make sure I don't get it wrong. They have added, where is it? Because it's a confusing word. A functionality process system, which essentially means that he can adjust the angles of the wheels when they're going around a corner. So obviously, with the steering wheel, they'll be able to turn naturally, and it'll be easy enough for him to do that. But it'll just give him that extra little bit of angle around the tighter corner. So you raise like your Monacos, those type of stuff, it'll come in super, super handy. And I am also hearing that Red Bull have complained a little bit about it.
It's just natural at this point, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see what happens.
There'll be something on Red Bull's car that Mercedes will complain about. And just getting ready for the big tantrums that they're both going to throw.
Absolutely. But yeah, in terms of Merc news, that's pretty much it. I find that with the Mercedes, they do sort of keep themselves sort of to themselves a little bit, and they try to hide what updates they're doing until that first weekend.
For sure. You're not going to know the real pace until the race, in my opinion. Yeah,
absolutely. Right.
Well, Red Bull, they finished second.
Come on then.
So home of the world champion, Max Verstappen.
That's
obviously,
it.
and then there's news last week that he signed a new contract, a 5-year extension. So he's going to be there until 2028 now, and that's the longest contract that's ever been given in F1 to any driver in the history. And they've not mentioned the numbers, but some reporters are putting it as much as 40 million a year. So that's a decent amount of money in it.
Oh man, I wouldn't even know what to do with that.
The thing is, though, as well, he makes them. Well, this is why they've given him a contract that's so high. Is that he makes them more than that a year? So
easily,
it's crazy. But I was reading as well that there was some rumours coming out that Red Bull were a little concerned that Mercedes might make a move for him after Hamilton retires. And then they were looking at, so Lando Norris is on a lucrative contract, Charles Leclerc's on a decent sized contract as well. So they were saying that really every single card was in Verstappen's hand. So he could have put basically whatever number, and Red Bull would would have really give it to him. So in negotiating terms, he was in the strongest possible position. For
sure.
And then obviously Perez, this is going to be his second season. What to make of last season? It's hard, really. I mean, ultimately, he'll probably be disappointed himself. The team probably thought that he was going to do a bit better than he did. He did get a win, and then he seemed to sort of have it under control coming towards the end. He had 3 consecutive third places in Turkey, USA, and Mexico. And then it seemed to be like, oh, okay, maybe it took him a while to settle down, but now he knows the car, now he knows the team. And then obviously he retired in Saudi Arabia and finished quite way back in Abu Dhabi, but you can sort of forgive that because he had that. He
played an important role
in holding Lewis up for a few laps. But I actually think that he's going to do much better this year. Because
I agree.
He's an experienced driver. He's been around, and I just feel like Red Bull. They've had the drivers' championship last year. They're going to go hell for leather to get both this year, I think. So there'll be a much more emphasis
100%.
on getting Perez to get on the podium or at least finish 4th at worst this year than having him just go in for a fastest lap just to stop Lewis Hamilton getting it, because that happened quite often as well.
Do you see Perez's role this year being similar to Russell's?
Well, yeah, but I think Perez is obviously expected to be the second driver, but I think he's more experienced and he knows F1. He's been around for a lot longer than Russell, so that's why obviously we'll get to it at the end. But I think Perez will outperform Russell this year for sure. Yeah.
Really interesting. I'm excited to hear about
that. Yep. So that's me for Red Bull.
Great. Who am I
Ferrari.
on next? Brilliant. Okay, so with Ferrari, Leclerc and Sainz had better seasons, I think it's safe to say. They did make some improvements to like the ACR, but we've heard that before. I think Ferrari are constantly trying to make changes to the cars, constantly making updates, and they just don't work. There is something happening at the factory with that company, and I mean, I don't know whether it's sort of chief engineer issues or just not having the correct sort of manpower to develop these things correctly, but they're just not keeping up. Last season, they weren't good enough. It was simple as that. We're talking about a franchise, like one of the biggest car manufacturing franchises ever to exist. Like, they should be up there.
I think last year, though, they made quite a point of the fact that they weren't really going to go all in on the developing on the 2021 car because they were going to save a lot of their sort of chips to play in 2022. So I think we've seen in the first testing in Bahrain, I think Leclerc and Sainz were the fastest two, and they're actually they're quite close to Red Bull for the constructors title actually in terms of odds. So I think in terms of bookmakers and from the first testing, it seems like they have put a lot into this year's car.
I think they have, and I think the bookmakers have probably got some inside info that we probably haven't got at the moment. But as I'm looking at it, I can only base it on what we saw in testing, what we see in the news and articles, and what we saw from last season. In my opinion, I don't see Ferrari improving this year. I have read issues with they've had more mechanical failures since testing. They have 2 quality drivers, like 2 very, very talented guys, and I think they're one more bad season away from being convinced to drive elsewhere. That's sort of my summary on Ferrari. A little bit harsh, but I need to be convinced. I need to see something better. I might be completely wrong. They might go out there and get a 1-2 in Bahrain, but from what I can see at the moment, I don't think it's looking good.
Yeah, bit of a different opinion for me. I feel quite optimistic on Ferrari. I think they'll definitely finish third, and I think they will definitely get closer. I don't know whether they will topple what Mercedes and Red Bull, but I think they'll definitely be closer. Yeah,
Love Ferrari, don't you?
If I had to pick a team to support, like buy merchandise and shit, I would definitely buy a Ferrari. Yeah.
Would you?
That's like the epitome of F1.
Yeah.
If you think about F1, you think about Ferrari. Like just.
You think about the money. Sounds like why you're a City fan as well.
For sure. Well, I think you get more money if you're a Mercedes or Red Bull. But Ferrari's...
Well, yeah, right now.
Ferrari's the legacy, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, come on then. Next.
McLaren. I'm on McLaren today. Obviously, they finished 4th last year. The drivers are Ricciardo and Norris, obviously. So you would say that Norris is probably going to be their driver number 1. Because he just outperformed Ricciardo, as simple as. I mean, Ricciardo did get 1 win, but he was miles behind Norris in terms of points. With Norris, I am yet to meet a single person that doesn't like him. This is what I mean. Every single person loves Norris. So this year, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate. I'm going to be hating on Norris because I don't think it's healthy to have literally 100% of the population loving you. So I'm going to be that guy, give him a bit of stick, keep his feet on the ground. I just think it's just like I say, I've not met a single person who doesn't love him. So someone's got to hate him. So I'll take that up.
My theory behind that is obviously. Those of you who follow F1 and stuff will know, like, Norris is quite big on social media. Like, he streams a lot of Twitch, doesn't he?
And he's a nice guy.
YouTube channels and stuff like that.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he genuinely is a nice guy. That's the thing.
For someone to be loved that much. So, I'll cause a bit of balance.
That's the thing. Like, it's almost. Yeah, there must be something wrong with him. Like, he must have a small cock or something like that.
Well, he got robbed at the Euros. I remember. Yeah, some guys mugged him for his 40 grand watch. So maybe I should feel sorry for him for that. But it is a 40 grand watch. And then with Ricciardo, obviously that was a really disappointing season from him. He finished 8th, but he did get a win, so he can brag about that to Lando. Yet to get a win. There was some rumours going around that McLaren were thinking about changing to a new driver, that the Mexican driver from the Indy series, Pato O'Ward. But no, they confirmed that Ricciardo's seat's safe, and there's nothing in line to replace him or anything like that. But I was doing some research on Ricciardo, and he says he's going to do much better this year, of course, which every driver's going to say. And he referred to himself as the DRICC. And really, I mean, when you're calling yourself that, I don't think you deserve any support.
They just don't help themselves, do they?
Someone needed to step in and say, "Listen, mate, you don't call yourself that. Just don't call yourself that."
No,
the DRICC.
I mean,
if that catches on, I'll be gobsmacked.
They must have.
I'll be gobsmacked.
It probably will now.
I'll tweet it. Go on the DRICC. Anyway, that's what I think. It's going to be a pretty boring season if you're a McLaren fan. I think you're going to finish 4th, and that's going to be it. You're just going to finish. You're not going to do it. You're not going to catch the top 3, and you're not really going to fall behind.
Yeah, I disagree again. I think McLaren. I think McLaren take 3rd this year. I think, I do. I think McLaren take 3rd. I think Norris is going to have an unbelievable season, and you'll see that in my odds and tips at the end of the episode.
Excited.
So. Right, who am I on? Alpine. Right, they've had a few changes here, and I'll explain. They now have a man named Pat Fry as the
sounds like he's from EastEnders,
and Matt Harmon as the technical director. Let me explain to you who Pat Fry is. He is single-handedly one of the most experienced engineers in the history of Formula One. Like, this guy is so smart. So it comes to questioning, why on earth has he gone to Alpine? And I think, obviously, like, they have a good budget. It's not the worst, it's not the best, but he must see something in Alpine. Like, he must see potential. And he's also, like I say, we have Harmon in now as a technical director. They're both good friends. They've introduced a brand new power unit as well, brand new power unit performance, and it was much needed, especially after last season. They did manage to win a race in Hungary. Ocon took it, and Alonso did a good job in there as well, because I remember he held off Hamilton with that in that race to give Ocon the win. So yeah, I think Alpine will win a race this year. I'm gonna say that. I do. I think there's going to be huge improvements. It's just whether they can maintain it, because as we know in the past, when you get brand new power units in, sometimes mechanically they fail a lot. So hopefully they don't go down that route. I'm a bit of a soft spot for Alpine. I'm not going to lie. Bit of a soft spot.
I quite like them as well. It's always nice having a French team in.
Yeah.
It's now Alpha Tauri with Gasly and Tsunoda. Gasly, obviously former Red Bull driver, and his deal is due to expire at the end of next year. And he was a regular top 6 qualifier in qualifying, but he seemed to not build on that qualifying performance in the races. So obviously he must be, he is a decent driver, a great driver, and it seems to be like, if he has another season really, really outperforming expectations in qualifying, that it just seems like it's almost destined that he's going to be taking Perez's spot when Perez comes to the end of his contract. So it just seems like a stopgap, and that's the whole thing of this team. In Abu Dhabi last year when Verstappen needed to get past Gasly, and he went on the radio, is there nothing you can do? And Gasly just happened to go wide. I feel like that's the sort of team that they are. And I hold nothing against them, but I can't exactly see them challenging to win races, because if they are in a position, then Red Bull are probably going to win. And with Tsunoda, it probably wasn't the maiden season he hoped for. He finished out the points in quite a few races, to be fair. But he did finish 4th in Abu Dhabi. So hopefully that's something he can build on. And then something notable about Tsunoda is that he's only 5'2". Yeah, he's the smallest driver. And I thought I'll give you some celebrities, and you can guess if they're smaller or taller than Tsunoda.
Love that.
So
hit me.
First
Let's
up,
go.
Kylie Minogue.
Oh,
no, she's only 5 foot. Yeah, so he is taller than...
I'm picturing her with high heels. I think that's the difference. All laid down.
Next up is Scarlett Johansson. Taller or smaller?
That's a toughie.
No, he's smaller. Scarlett Johansson is 5'3". Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, as in she's taller.
She's taller. I was saying is Tsunoda taller. Okay, Rebel Wilson. Is Tsunoda taller or smaller than Rebel Wilson?
Ooh, that's
no high heels.
I think Rebel Wilson.
No high heels. Yeah.
No high heels, and she stood up.
She is,
I think Rebel
she's
Wilson's
5'3". Next up, Macy Williams.
She's small. She's tiny. She is tiny.
Yeah, she's only 5 foot as well. Next,
come on,
Frankie Dettori. Is he smaller or taller?
That's brilliant. I love that. Oh, I love that. Tell you what, if racing cars doesn't work out for Tsunoda, definitely
they love it.
Get him in as a jockey, I reckon. Exactly. I reckon Frankie Dettori is
by an inch. She's 5'3". And then last up, Kevin Hart.
Oh, see, I think Hart is taller.
Well, it's a trick. They're both the same height.
Brilliant. I love that.
That's all I've got
game.
for Alfa. So move on.
Excellent.
Next? Aston Martin.
Aston Martin. It's a weird one here because I like Vettel. I love Vettel. Legend in the sport. Loads of respect. But I hate Lance Stroll. I despise the man.
So always good to have strong opinions.
I think I think he's out of his depth big time, and I think it will prove this season. Realistically, he's only in the F1 because
it's
of
hard
his
to
dad.
get a liking. It's hard to like someone like that.
I mean, it is hard. I mean, if he was a good driver and was winning everything, then you could like make a case for him, and I could probably understand it. But he doesn't. Like wherever he goes, he just doesn't perform, and he's got an attitude, and he blames other people. He blames cars, whatever it is. It's never his fault. His dad just pumps money into whichever team he goes into, and as far as I'm concerned, it's ethically just not correct, and I don't think it's quite within the
spirit of the game.
You know, the world of F1.
The spirit of F1,
yeah. I think it's against it. I know it is, but I just think it's a bit unfair.
I think there are definitely better drivers that would be worthy of his seat. But he's never going to get sacked.
100%.
Regardless of where he finishes.
No, he's never going to lose a job.
It is my favourite looking car.
Exactly.
Again. I love the colour.
Is it? Yeah. Really, I liked it last season. I think this season it's changed a little bit, so it's not my favourite. I'll get to my favourite one. Aston Martin, they use the Mercedes power units, but they have been hinting now for a while that they've considered like making their own. Again, like personally, it's a good idea, but they can't rush that decision because like they'll be making money from that as well. So financially, it has to be correct. And also, performance-wise, it has to be correct because if they cut ties with Mercedes and then their own power unit doesn't work,
for sure.
I mean, they've lost out on a huge investment there. Regardless how I think they'll do this season, I think it's going to be quite similar to to the season who's just gone. I think Stroll will be down there.
It's going to be a battle for them to get into
as usual
into the third qualifying, and it wouldn't shock me if every now and then one of them gets knocked out in the first round of qualifying, which happened a couple of times.
Yeah, no, it has. I think Vettel will have some good races this year, but I think majority of the races this year, I think both of them are going to struggle. I think the whole team will struggle in general. There's just not much coming out from them at the moment, which shows that they would that they're going to have a good season or a better season at least than last year.
Oh, fair enough.
Got to feel quite harsh today,
but
eh? Get me off the teams. Get me off the teams I like.
So I think that leads me on to Williams, and to be honest, I had quite a hard time finding any news about Williams, really. Obviously, they've got a new driver in Albon to replace George Russell. And George Russell, he qualified really well for Williams last year. His race performances weren't as good as qualifying, but it's to be expected with a car of that quality. So I think, again, us being harsh, that it's probably a backward step for Williams, having Albon now instead of Russell. But when I was looking for news, one of the articles I did find was to do with sponsorships and all that side, and on the car they've got Duracell, and this is another car that looks really, really nice. And for some reason, the Duracell sponsorship just stuck out for me, and it got me thinking of other cars where the sponsorship just seemed to completely work with the car. In terms of visually, because sometimes you can get, it's the same with football shirts. Sometimes you get a really nice football shirt and then the sponsor just completely ruins it. But for some reason, it just seemed to fit really well. Yeah. And it got me thinking of other cars where I really like the sponsors on them. So I was thinking the 2017 Ferrari. It had Santander, it had Shell, it had Ray-Ban. And and
I remember the Santander.
It just really resonated with me. I really loved that car. And then also Hamilton's car in 2007 when he was with Alonso, with the McLaren with the Vodafone on the grey, and then it had Vodafone on the back. So for me, they're two of my favourite sponsors, and it just got me thinking of Williams because I couldn't really think of anything else with Williams. So I don't know if you have any other cars that you get sponsors from that work really well.
I remember that Ferrari one. That sticks out a lot. I went to Ferrari World, and I remember seeing that Santander. I just imagine that meeting. Imagine Santander go, right, so this is where we want it, and this is how big we want it to be. And the Ferrari guy just been like, oh my god.
I mean, Petronas
that's ridiculous.
Mercedes, it works quite well as well.
Yeah.
But no,
I think we got used to it, haven't we? Now
that Ferrari 2017 definitely my favourite visual car with Shell on the front as well.
100%.
But yeah, that's all I've got on Williams. So sorry, there's not much, but even Williams Reddit was absolutely dead, absolutely nothing.
They're struggling themselves. That brings me on to Alfa Romeo.
Oh, is it?
My favourite car.
Yeah.
It is. I had to think about it. I had to look at the designs. It is beautiful. It is such a nice car. It's it's got the red and white. It's got the black wings, tinted, very stylish, sophisticated front wings. I really, really like it. I think it's a really, really nice car. I think they've done a fantastic job, and I think that the drivers are also going to do well this year. Obviously, finished ninth last year, not the best season. Yeah. Bottas in, and obviously the news of the first ever Chinese F1 driver, Huan Zhao, is at the wheel. He's actually very good. Grew up in Sheffield.
That is exciting.
Yeah, that's something I learned. Grew up. Rumour has it his family actually moved him over to Sheffield so he could pursue his karting career. And sponsorships wise, they just went crazy for him, and that's where he is today. He's only young. I think having Bottas as a mentor as well would be great. I think Bottas taking that new role as the mentor, I think is going to be great for him too. I'm predicting a fifth finish for Alfa Romeo this year. Yeah, I think they are going to fly up. Might be completely wrong. They've made some changes. I think it's important to remember that because, fully enough, I heard they're using the Ferrari's cooling system package. So that's like the only good thing I like about the Ferrari. It doesn't overheat. It cools down quick. You never hear drivers having issues with overheating problems. So I get why they've done that, and I wouldn't be surprised as well in the future if other teams copy the same thing. They also have the Red Bull and the McLaren's push rod suspension as well, which essentially uphill, downhill, and the change in levels of the road. They're not going to lose much time and traction there either, which is great. I'm big things for Alfa Romeo. A big fan. I like the car. I love the drivers.
But you don't think with Alfa Romeo, with Kimi Räikkönen and now Bottas, you don't think it's where drivers go to finish their career?
I think they'll prove. I think they'll prove differently this year. I do. I think Bottas will have a great season this year, and I'm really excited to see this new lad as well.
So then that leaves us just with Haas, and that currently they've only got one driver.
Come on then,
Schumacher. They were the only team
to
finish with 0 points, I believe. It doesn't seem to be going very well for them at the moment. Obviously, they had the situation with Nikita, which is just nothing much more we can say about that, really. The position seemed to be untenable from the way the restrictions are going in the world and stuff like that. But also, the reports that they could miss the first day of testing because the cargo has got stuck. So they've got some logistical issues. So they've got one driver and
I heard about that.
Test it. There's rumours going around who the new driver could be. They have a test driver, Pietro Fittipaldi. He's going to be doing the testing in Bahrain, but he's he's already their test driver.
He's already a team member, isn't he?
Really. Yeah. Well, one option that did seem to be getting a lot of traction on Reddit and online was Giovinazzi from Alfa last year. Yeah. So
big Gio.
Yeah, I think he probably will because they'd much rather have an experienced driver. And he put in a few good drives last year.
Would you rather have an experienced driver,
Well,
or would you
like I
rather
said,
have
they've already got
somebody who knows the
Schumacher
car
who knows
better?
the car and is young, so you might as well go with Giovinazzi. He was in an episode of Top Gear as well, so I like him.
Fair enough. I'm hearing they have. There was a rumor about again another IndyCar driver as well coming over, Colton Herta. He could be making the switch from IndyCar.
Yeah, well, they are.
I think that's a big
team,
outside
so
shot. That one. Just
who knows?
Yep.
That's it for the teams then.
We've done it. We've gone through them all.
I don't know.
Great success. I think it's interesting. Like, we've done a summary on each team and all the drivers and all the cars and the changes, but you just don't know what's going to happen. Do you? I think that's the beauty of it at the moment. The where F1 is right now, you just have no idea what's going to happen.
From a betting point of view, for the last few years when I've been working in the online side of things, one thing that I've noticed for sure is that we react to the times from testing, and then it means nothing. so in terms of the whole season. So, for example, Russell could outperform Hamilton massively in testing. Everyone goes, "Oh wow, it's going to be really, really close." But we don't know what they were testing. We don't know if it was a specific plan, a specific scenario. So I used to read loads into testing, and now I don't care. Because I've seen the reaction in terms of the changing of the odds, and then it absolutely meaning nothing. And I've seen it over and over again. So I would say that don't read into the testing in terms of the betting. Maybe the testing, it might be good for Bahrain, maybe for the first two races, but in terms of season bets, don't read into the testing.
Yeah, I think it's important that we give people that perspective from a bettor's point of view. Obviously, there's a difference between being a fan and watching it, and then placing a bet, which obviously we're going to come on to very shortly. And are we missing something else out of the schedule?
No, I think I've covered everything I want
to move on?
Say. Just onto the bets now, I think.
Good. This is sort of the penultimate, getting towards the end now. This is the exciting part. As we mentioned, as traders, we want to give everyone the best sort of inside knowledge we possibly can. It is tough pre-season. It is tough, especially when we've only seen them in testing. We haven't had any races yet. We can only base it off what's happened last year. And it's also a bit of a gut instinct as well, isn't it? So I think it's important that people take this quite lightheartedly, but at the same time keep an eye out on our Twitter, because we'll be posting some more tips and bets.
Yeah, I'll go first.
Do you want to go first?
Like I mentioned earlier, for me, a match bet between Perez and Russell, you're getting 6-4 in most places for Perez to finish ahead of Russell, and I think that is going to be the bet. And then also, I think that Max is going to be world champion again, and he's available roughly at 5-2. But then, obviously, if I'm thinking of these two bets, so I'm thinking Max is going to be champion, and then Perez is going to outperform Russell. Probably the best bet is actually to do Red Bull to win the championship at 3-1, because if those two things come in, then Red Bull are obviously going to win the title. But if you wanted to do just an individual one, for example, if you think that Hamilton might win the world championship, but you're still a bit on the fence about Russell and Perez, then you can just do the single on Perez at 6-4.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think the 3-1's great value, especially if.
And then just for Bahrain, obviously anything can happen. So I think it's probably a play at the prices to back both Leclerc and Sainz just to win in Bahrain.
Well,
I'm probably going to back them at every race, on the off chance.
Yeah, but in all fairness, value-wise, you're laughing if it happens. Excellent. I've gone for a little bit of a different route this week for my tips. First one on Betfair. So I'm being quite specific here. On Betfair, you can have George Russell to win 5+ races this season at 5-1. Now, I think that is great price. I think he'll easily win 5+ races this year. I think he's going to have a great season. And I think at 5-1, I think you're absolutely laughing. Following on with Russell, on Bet Victor, you can actually have Russell to win the Drivers' Championships. Any guesses? What do you reckon the price that has?
I don't know, but I wouldn't be backing it. Yeah.
It's 10-1. It's 10-1. I think there's not a huge, value-wise, there's not a massive point in backing likes of Lewis and Max. But unless you're betting big money. So I think having a little flutter on a 10-1 for Russell to win it, I think is great. It's a great shout. Finally, I've got McLaren to finish third in the Constructors' Championships. That's on Coral. Coral is the best odds for this. That was at 7-1. I think that's a great price. I don't believe in Ferrari this year at all, and I think the next best after Ferrari is McLaren. I think those two will be the ones fighting for that third spot. And I think 7-1 is a great price.
Yeah, I'm backing Ferrari. I think they'll be all right. I think they'll finish third, and I think they'll get closer.
Well, I think when we do another podcast on the F1, like midway through the season, I think you need to come
after
like a Ferrari hat or something.
I'll invest that money on a Ferrari hat.
All right, great. I'll get a McLaren one or I don't know, maybe an Alfa Romeo one. Yeah, excellent. And yeah, that's all. They're the main tips I found at the moment. So just to confirm, then, with Bahrain coming up, who do you reckon will take the race?
I'll go with Charles Leclerc. Yeah, for just for Bahrain.
Yeah,
but Verstappen for the title overall.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to go. I think Hamilton's going to come back with vengeance here. I'm going to take Hamilton at Bahrain. Should I be a bit adventurous for the title? I might be a bit adventurous here.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'll go Russell. Yeah,
It's
I'll go
it's
Russell.
bold if you ask
I think
me.
Mercedes will win.
If you say they're both in the same car, and you think Russell is a better driver than Hamilton.
I just think this year, realistically, I think Hamilton has a better chance. But if I'm being a bit brave, I'm going to go with Russell. That's it. Excellent. So that pretty much brings us towards the end of the podcast. It was a pleasure talking to you, as always. Next week, we have a new episode. And we are going to be discussing...
we're going to be doing an IPL preview in the next episode. And we are specialists in cricket, so there won't be as many notes being read. We will know specifics in cricket, so we'll be really, really switched on for that one. And of course, there's 2 new teams in the IPL this year, but obviously we'll be mentioning that in the next episode. And before that episode comes out, there will be some team previews, individual team previews, getting put on the YouTube channel, so you can look out for them. They'll be good.
Absolutely. I think it's important to note that those of you who will be tuning in next week regarding the cricket episode, if you're not huge cricket fans, the IPL is the Indian Premier League. It's a huge event.
It is absolutely mad for bets. Absolutely mad. Absolutely.
And that's something we'll definitely be diving into, I think, in next week's episode for sure. Remember to subscribe, like, all the good stuff. Turn your bell on notification. There's the Twitter account. Keep an eye on Pete's little videos and our tips and tricks and all inside info regarding the gambling industry. Pete, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I will see you for next week's episode on the IPL at the Talking Sports Traders podcast. Cheers.